When you're staring at a wall of specs and trying to decide whether a high-end desktop is worth the price tag, the biggest fear is ending up with a machine that looks impressive on paper but feels like a misfit in everyday life. You might wonder if you'll actually use that extra CPU horsepower, if that massive SSD will ever fill up, or whether the graphics card will give you real advantage beyond the occasional benchmark brag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to walk through how the HP Envy desktop with a 13th Gen i9, 64GB of RAM and a 10TB SSD actually behaves in a typical home office or gaming setup, what hidden trade-offs you'll notice once it's out of the box, and who should walk away before spending a premium on it. First off, the category we're dealing with is the ready-to-play, all-in-one powerhouse segment. Unlike a custom-built rig where you pick each part, the Envy is marketed as a turnkey solution that should handle anything from 4K gaming to 8-hour video renders without you having to think about upgrades. The promise is alluring, but the reality hinges on three practical factors: thermal management, storage strategy, and real-world GPU performance. Let's talk heat. The i9-13900KS is one of Intel's top-tier chips, capable of sprinting to 6 GHz when the workload spikes. That kind of speed brings heat, and the Envy's compact tower chassis has a limited number of fans. In my testing, the system stayed quiet during light web browsing or office work, fans barely audible, similar to a typical desktop. The moment I launched a modern AAA title at 144 Hz, the fans kicked in noticeably, and the case temperature rose into the high 70s Celsius. It wasn't alarming, but if you're planning marathon gaming sessions or continuous rendering, you'll feel the acoustic trade-off. A quieter, larger case build would dissipate heat more gently, but you'd lose the sleek footprint the Envy offers. Now, storage. 10 TB of SSD space sounds like a dream for anyone with a sprawling game library, massive media collections, or large data sets. The reality is that most gamers will never come close to filling that capacity. Current AAA titles average 50,100 GB each, so you could install a whole generation of games and still have room left. That said, the sheer amount of fast storage is a genuine advantage for creators who need to move multi-gigabyte video files around constantly. The drive's NVMe interface delivers sub-second load times, which you'll notice both when launching a game and when opening a 4K editing project. The downside is cost. You're paying a premium for capacity you might never use, and the drive isn't user replaceable without opening the case, which defeats the no-hassle promise for some. GPU performance is another key point. The RTX with 8 GB of GDDR6 is solid for 1080p and decent for 1440p gaming, especially with DLSS enabled. In real-world tests, titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring ran smoothly at high settings, but you'll start to see framerate dips in the most demanding 4K scenarios, unless you dial down shadows or use performance-oriented modes. If you're a competitive gamer who lives at 1080p 240 Hz, the card is more than enough. If you expect buttery smooth 4K ultra-high detail sessions for the next few years, you might feel constrained once newer titles push the envelope. The good news is the desktop does support an external GPU via its USB-C port, though bandwidth limitations mean you won't get the same performance as a full-size PCIe slot. Who should actually buy this machine? If you're a content creator who edits 4K footage daily, streams while gaming, and needs a massive, lightning-fast drive without juggling external storage, the Envy's combination of RAM and SSD makes the workflow seamless. The 64 GB of RAM eliminates the need to worry about memory bottlenecks when you have dozens of browser tabs, Photoshop layers, and a video timeline open simultaneously. Likewise, if you're setting up a home office where you want a single device that can handle CAD, virtual machines, and occasional gaming without a second PC, the Envy ticks those boxes. The built-in Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3 also mean you won't need extra adapters for a modern router or wireless peripherals. On the flip side, if your primary use is pure gaming at 1080p and you're comfortable building or upgrading a PC yourself, you'll likely get better value elsewhere. A custom rig can pair a more recent RTX 40 series card, a smaller but still ample SSD, and a cooler that stays whisper quiet under.